Good morning, everybody. Here we are at the end of October, and I have finally got all the data that I need to give a breakdown on the cost of our solar production, import, export, and just about how we've done on Octopus Agile during the month. It's taken me a little while for two reasons. One, I haven't actually had the full billing yet for the entire month of September, because I was flip-flopping in between Agile and Go, and whilst at the time that was a very simple process to do online, and I was changing because my usage patterns and behavior was changing, with charging the car more regularly, and with the Octopus Agile rates not being quite so attractive for that. So that was a reason why the billing was a little bit sort of inconsistent. I wasn't able to get my full data. The other app that I was using, Octopus Watch, was also missing some data, and in some cases took a week, 10 days actually to be collected. So and also partly because I've been extremely busy with other things. So I've taken a view of September. I've now got all the data that I need, and I'm happy to share that with you. So I've already gone through some Agile information based off of this spreadsheet before, as a bit of a snapshot, and just how we were doing and how I was collecting my data. So this is a breakdown per week. Notes there on when the solar was installed, and also when we went over to Octopus Go. In future, for October, you can see down here in the bottom tabs, I'm not going to make mention of when we swapped over. I'm not sure what point that is, because I was flipping over so regularly. It was very difficult to sort of target data on that basis. So let's take a good look at it then. You can ignore these green fills here. I started filling in green in a similar way to the Octopus Watch app did, in highlighting periods where the average weighted cost per kilowatt in pence was sub 12, greater than 12, and then greater than 20. You'll see here for the large part that it's below 12 pence anyway, so it didn't seem to be much point in doing that. And thankfully, very rare were we ever over 12, and we've never been above 20. Otherwise, I'd clearly be on the wrong tariff if that was the case. So here we have the electricity consumption and data for September 2020, and as you can see along the top here, we were live with our solar. It went online on the 4th September, late on in the afternoon. So when we take a look at week one here, you'll notice Octopus Agile. We were already on Octopus Agile from, I think, middle of August time. But of course, you see no export data here. Simply because the solar wasn't installed until Friday afternoon. So all this was Octopus Watch and online Octopus information from billing and data, etc. So it goes over 4.5 weeks, and 5 weeks. Along the right hand side here, we've got the projected solar generation, and I'm pleased to say that we exceeded that, which is great news. Just beneath that, we've got the consumption. That is consumption from the grid. That's what we draw from the grid, and we've got our consumption from solar, and then what we were able to export, and what that would have paid us back as Octopus, or also our preferred option for the payback for what we export back to the grid. Guaranteed export tariff, the GET. as obviously the fit now, as of I believe January this year, was no longer available. They were phasing it out over the few years prior to that. So yeah, I mean, has it been a great month? Well, when you look at the average price, I don't think September was that fantastic. Um, it's still better than had I been on their standard fixed tariff, but it's not as blindingly cheap as I thought it might be. We had no price plunging, and we had several evenings where the prices were in excess of 8-9 pence. So yeah, not fantastic. And of course, if you want to charge your car, you don't really want to be charging at 8-9p when you can be charging at 5 pence. The other reason I think that my weighted average is actually slightly higher maybe than some is because I've got solar. And that might sound a bit odd, but when you think about it, the solar actually protects us from the large part of the day costs. Now, the large part of the day costs aren't actually that expensive. From 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning when my solar is producing, there are a few peaks up until about 10 o'clock when obviously people are getting ready for work and children getting ready for school, etc. But then after that it drops down quite a bit until about 4 o'clock in the evening, and that's when the prices peak on Agile. But my solar will produce from about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning up until about 4:30 in the afternoon, particularly in the winter. So I'm protected from those prices, but I'm also shielded and I'm blocked from those cheaper prices. So in effect, what solar does is it gives me a lot of free energy during the day, but that's relatively cheap anyway. And then it's sort of the starting gun starts really at sort of 4:30 when it's quite expensive. Now we don't use a lot, so then in fact we don't hardly use anything at all between 4 and 7, because we tend to have our dinner as a bit of a late lunch, and then we snack in the evening on something cold. That's why it works for us. But you'll see that that's why our weighted, that is weighted means your consumed average price, what you actually consume, not the average price during the day. And people's weighted average will vary depending on their usage, of course. So if you're typically using it more during those peak times, then also your weighted average will be higher. And that's why I think, I'm fairly sure that that's why my average is it's slightly higher than what the average for the day was, simply because my solar is sort of stopping me from using those cheap rates. So it's with all these things, it's never a perfect solution. The fantastic thing is, if you look at this here, cost the September consumption solar, 485 kilowatts we haven't had to pay for, whatever price that is. So that's pretty cool. And it also does work because right now we're producing 7/10 of NAFL solar on a very overcast, dull October morning, and obviously on Octopus Agile the rate is pretty cheap. So let's have a quick look at this then. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of week one, obviously no export. Friday is when the solar came in, and you can see here on the right hand side that our average weighted was about 9 pence, not 8-9 pence, which is really good. And the average price for a standard fixed tariff is 14.5p with Octopus at the moment. So anything below that is great. That's the reality. So it's very pleasing to see lots of sub 14 pence here, and otherwise there'd be no point doing it really. I expect that my weighted average will be slightly higher because of solar. So obviously solar is a good thing, but you'd want to see this below 14p if you can. So my total for the week is 90 kilowatts. 9, 18, 27, 36. That's about 4,000 kilowatts for the year, which is about average really for a family of 4. I must say that we've reduced ours quite a bit. We were we were about 7,000 usage. So yeah, yeah, we were using quite a lot, upwards of these sort of figures here was our typical day, whereas now it tends to be sort of around here, unless of course we're charging the car. So that's total cost there was £9.17. I'm going to ignore this 18 watts of export because I've balanced it up at the end here. So solar installed, as you can see, and yeah, I mean the export in kilowatts is getting quite high usage down on this side. One day here we went over 12 pence, but again, that's quite a cheap week here. 9.93 average, 10.18 here. Yeah, and again, what do we got here? 11.73, a little bit more of an expensive average. We're still only using about 53 kilowatts here. Where you'll see the biggest jump is when we moved over to Octopus Go tariff, and some interesting figures here. One is our usage. It's from 58, 53. What's the previous week on that? All right, 90. Getting a bit excited that week, but yeah, in the main, obviously, it pretty much doubles here because we're charging the car. But look what it does to the weighted price when you go over to the Go tariff. Obviously, if you use a lot at 5p, then your weighted average is going to come down. But yeah, 950 versus 990 there, and 11 didn't seem to, and 1018. All right, it's a penny, isn't it? Didn't seem to make a massive difference, because remember, when you go over to Octopus Go, you've only got 4 hours at 5p. The rest of the day you're at about, I think it's 13.5. So yeah, it's a difficult one, that, because obviously you're paying 13.5 from 4 o'clock in the morning till about, I don't know, 7:30 when your solar produces. Then your solar protects you from that 13.5. And it also protects you from the peak between 4 and 7. So it balances itself out. But then after 7, you're paying 13p again. So it's a really difficult one, this. And there are apps there to sort of show you what you are saving. But when I've used them, I mean, it literally is just a few pence. And actually recently, Octopus Agile have had some plunge pricing, which has been superb. I mean, minus 8 pence per kilowatt. So yeah, I'm a bit more excited about the outgoing, but sorry, Agile. But what I would say, we don't charge the car every day. Quite a lot of time I charge it with solar. Quite a lot of the time I use free charging, some free charging points up the road from us here. So if you were charging a car, or maybe 2 cars, or you had a power wall, or you had storage heaters and that sort of stuff, I would probably say Go is your friend, because that large consumption, 50, 60 kilowatts of an evening, most evenings, I think you want to be on 5p personally. But otherwise, I think Agile still works just as well, to be quite honest. So yeah, where are we? So we went all the way down here, 127 kilowatts, weighted 9.53, and yeah, that was an expensive end to the week here. 30 kilowatts on these 2 days, and 12.7. So there's only one week where our average hit over 12, and it's only for those couple of days. So we'll see into October in a minute as to just what the rest of that week looked like. Okay, so I've managed to put it all up in a little bar graph here, getting a bit snazzy now with the Excel options. So September, our forecast was 448 kilowatts to be produced in September, and we produced 676, which is excellent really by comparison. Just a reminder, we've got 7.5 kilowatts on the roof with a 5 kilowatts inverter. And we've got the Eddy and Zappy. The Eddy's brilliant at tracking your solar, because it will only uses up to 3 kilowatts, and it uses sine wave technology to vary that draw. The Zappy won't work until you've got at least 1.4 kilowatts of excess energy, because of regulation and just basically how it works. So if you don't have the eddy, you could very feasibly all day have excess of 1.4 kilowatts just going back to the grid, if you had the Zappy only. So the eddy really is great because it can vary its draw from 0.1 of a kilowatt right the way up to 3. So it's very useful at tracking your solar. So consumption from the grid. So we drew 360 kilowatts from the grid. Of the 676 that we generated, we consumed 485, so that's got to be 2/3, hasn't it? And September export was 155.79. The theory is it's better to use it than it is to sell it back to the grid, because you're only selling back at 5.5p. But you know, it's unavoidable really, unless you've got a battery, and I still can't justify the cost of a battery at the moment. I show you why. The payback was £8.56, and you know, if I had a battery, then that would have all gone back into the battery. So that's a lot of £8.56s to warrant, you know, sticking anywhere between 5 and 10 grand's worth of battery. So I'm not quite there yet with it. I think it's more of a like to have, and a cool way of trying to be sort of almost independent from the grid, but it's not really a cost-effective way of using your energy. I don't think at the moment. I've yet to be convinced. So here you can see week 1, 2, 3, and 4 our usage. Basically the bottom totals here on each of the weeks that I've just been through, and we can see down here what the totals are. 360, like I said, export 155. Our cost, this is really fantastic. Our cost for electricity was just shy under 40 quid, with a weighted average of over the 4 and a bit weeks of 10.822. So when you look at 14 and a bit pence for the average, for a fixed tariff with Octopus, you know, just shy of 11p is really very good. Payback of 8.56. So actually what it cost us is £30 for our electricity for the whole of September, which I'm really pleased about. That also includes car charging, etc. And I put, or more accurately, my wife put £20 of diesel in our Mondeo, and I would normally spend £200 a month on my diesel, and I haven't. And yeah, I've spent next to nothing on that. So electricity, we were normally spending about £90 a month on electricity, and then about £30 a month on our gas. So 120, £130 a month. I haven't got the gas details on here yet. We hardly used any gas really in September, simply because the heating wasn't on and the hot water was being produced by the eddy. That will increase, but that aside, keeping that constant, because there's no clever tariffs for the gas, and we can't produce our heating any other way other than through the eddy, which is not fantastic when the weather's really poor. So I think our gas usage will inevitably be less, maybe only slightly less during the winter months. On the summer months, the eddy was hot and it heated our entire 220 litre system by 10 o'clock in the morning. So we just didn't need it, the gas. But keeping things constant, I'm expecting my bill to be anywhere around £60 for the month. So yeah, I mean, that's less than half of what we were paying, and the electricity is around a third of what we were paying. So that's made some significant savings. When you're talking about justifying the cost of solar, well, it isn't just the savings that you're making in your house consumption, but it's also if you do have an electric vehicle, that's where the savings are massive. Because like I say, if you add this into your time to repay for your investment. Our system cost us around £7,000. We're saving about £50 a month, which is about £600 a year, purely with our house load. But I think we'll probably be saving at least £1,000 a year, if not more, on our cost for fuel. So yeah, I was looking at this about a 5-year return on investment, and I think that's going to be about right. So I'm really pleased about that. And then just at the bottom here is a graph which summarizes and sort of visually shows. You can see here that week 4 was our biggest consumption. That's because obviously we were charging the car, and when we go into October, I'll give you a quick preview on that at the moment. You'll see there's quite a few more days of this actually detailed. So yeah, really pleased for our total cost here, and we've got the total solar savings of £61 here. So what I've done there is I've taken the 485 kilowatts of September solar consumption. It's a little weighted because of course you've got the eddy in there to heat the hot water, and had we not had the eddy, I wouldn't be using an immersion heater ever unless I really had to. So it's a little bit biased, but the figures are there, and it has what we've consumed, and it just compares at what we would have spent. So looking at our average weighted price of £10.822 pence, we actually consumed 485 kilowatts, with an average weighted use of 10.822. Basically saved us 52.52 pounds. When I said around 60, didn't I? We also exported £8.56. So yeah, there's the total. It might be a few quid either side of that, but can't be that accurate with these things. But £61 is what we've saved in September by consuming of what we were able to consume from our solar generation. So the consumption of 485 versus the generation of 676, that 485 at 10.822 pence gave us a consumption saving of 52.52, plus the 856 we exported. That's 61 £61. So yeah, that's pretty astonishing, really. So if difficult to say multiply this by 12 because it's not going to be the same, but yeah, you can see just how quickly when you put onto top there on the top what you would have saved on fuel as well, you can see just how quickly you can get your money back. Yeah, so there we have it. Consumption all the way across. Export, really good week 2 on export. Lots of sun there. We were away for a few days during this period as well, so of course all that's going back to export, and then cost and average weighted. So yeah, you can see around here, got to be about say around 10 pence is the average weighted, like we can see there, 10.822. So that is September, and as we go over to October, you can see here immediately 170, 142, 100. Yeah, it's going to be quite meaty again all the way through October. Decreasing scale here by the look of things, but it's quite interesting to see. So yeah, you can see here, well, a week of 8 pence, a week of 11. That's an expensive week of 12. So what I was going to say earlier on, that it doesn't make a massive difference being on Octopus Go, but as I say, I also haven't mentioned here about when I was on Octopus Go and Agile, because literally there were periods where I was swapping day by day. But one lesson I've learned from this really is I don't think there's an awful lot of point in doing it, because there's not a lot in it. For me, as I don't charge the car every day, I don't have a battery, and I don't have storage heaters, or I don't have heavy consumption or need for heavy consumption at night time. But there will be others that do. Just a word of warning, Octopus now say that you cannot leave, well, you can leave their smart tariff onto one of their other tariffs, but you can't go back onto the smart tariff within, I think they said, 3 months. You might want to check that. When you go over on their website and you want to switch, there is an extra tick box as a condition at the bottom to remind you that you can't just flip-flop every day. So I think it might actually come back to 28 days, but check it. But you certainly can't do it daily like you used to be able to do. So I think it just causes a nightmare for them for their billing. Yeah, so watch out for that. There's no more flip-flopping. So if you go on to their fixed or you go on to go, you then have to stay on that for at least a period of time, whether it be a month or 3 months. Check it out before you can go back onto their smart tariff, and they, in inverted commas, call smart Agile their smart tariff. They call Go more of a fixed tariff. So of the fixed tariff, Go's included in that. So watch out for that. Good. Well, everything looks good. There were several gaps in October where I wasn't getting the data. You can see there's still a gap here on Sunday, the 25th. That was a plunge day, and I actually think I have got the data for that. But I need to check it because it did look a bit skewed. So I haven't finished this off yet, but on Sunday the 25th, we had a plunge day where, as I say, it went down to minus 8p. So the total cost there will actually be a negative. I think I only saved like 50p or something, but yeah, hey, something for free, why not? But there were people that saved, a lot more than that, as they had much larger consumption than us. So hopefully that's the only gap that I've got. The rest of the month will be fine. Today we are the 30th of October, so yeah, I've got a couple of days more to fill in here, fill in some of these gaps here, and then I should be able to report on October and give a good comparison. Well, thanks very much for watching. I'll put my Octopus switch link in the bottom, and that link, as I've mentioned in previous videos, will split £50 for yourself and myself for the referral. It's a referral code, rather than sign up for £25, which I think is what you normally get. So it's double. If you think with this information you'd like to go out that way, click on that link. And of course, remember to subscribe if you like the videos. Thanks very much indeed for watching, and I should have the October stats out in the next week or so. Thank you.